Today on the Ever Onward podcast, we have Dr. Kaleb Redden. He is Dr. Thor from the Titan Games. We've known him for a long time. He is a wonderful guy. He's a sports medicine doctor here in town. He does a lot of great things here, and we can't wait to catch up with him, see what he's up to, and talk all things health and wellness. Dr. Kaleb Redden. Kaleb, thanks for coming on, man.
Pleasure.
Straight from the hospital.
Yeah, straight from work here. Yeah, it's good stuff.
It's been a while. It's going to be fun getting caught up.
Yeah, I'm excited.
We were just talking about your kids. I didn't know you. Listen.
Yeah.
We've had the joke today. This is like the handsome, athletic dude day on the podcast. But you have a 19-year-old.
I do. Yeah, 19-year-old son. He's doing great. It's been one of the best parts of my life is being a dad. But yeah, he's 19, and then I have a 15-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter, and she is a boy, oh boy. The boys were easy taking care of her.
Amen. So I had boy, 3 girls, and I remember the very first time, like at 13 or 14, there was like just some random crying, and I'm like,
what is this?
This is different.
Yeah, if she would have been born first, we'd have only had one. She'd have been an only child, I'm pretty sure. Yep.
Oh, that's great. That's great. What, are your kids into sports?
They are. Yep. So my she's a hard charger. She loves volleyball, does club, and pretty busy with that. I'm sure a lot of Idaho parents are aware of what it's like to have a kid in club sports. Doesn't matter what the club is, but stays pretty hopped up. And then my boys both like football and track. Both play football and track.
Pretty intense with club sports nowadays, right? I mean,
it's
like it's not like when I grew up. Like you did it in the season, and then you went and played in the fields, and then whatever. It's different now, right?
It is, yeah. Club sports are an entity all of their own, and I was the same way. Like I played club hockey growing up, and it was club just because it wasn't a school-sponsored sport, but you just paid for your ice time and the ref time, and your parents carted you around the state, and you traveled because you had to travel.
Where'd you grow up?
In Wyoming.
Wyoming. Mm-hmm. Where were you born?
I was born in Provo, Utah. I never lived there. My dad was doing his training. He works for Williams, which is a big natural gas processing company. So he was doing training there. They had me, and then they moved right to Wyoming, essentially. So I was
what town?
born there. Big Piney is the name of the town.
Big Piney, Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember this.
Yeah. Population is like 350, 400 people. It's a pretty small, isolated place, but bunch of tough kids come out of that small town, let me tell you.
What was the closest bigger town?
It's a 65-mile drive to Kemmer, which had a couple thousand. And then big, like Walmart, the closest Walmart was like Rock Springs, and that was a 2-hour drive to get to Walmart.
Kemmerer, right?
Mm-hmm. Spelled funny, yeah.
Spelled funny?
Yeah, Kemmerer.
Isn't there like a reservoir there or something?
Yeah, so Fontenelle
Reservoir.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got some big, I'm trying to think of what.
Lingcod are in there like crazy. Huge lingcod, yeah.
Yeah. So,
there's some good fish in there for sure.
Well, I went there once and never again. So my father-in-law's a nut, right? I remember this. That's where I remember Kemmerer. So he says, hey, we're going to go fishing. You want to go? And it's the middle of winter. And he's like, there are these great big fish in there. And I will remember he had this little aluminum boat with like a 25 horsepower outboard. And we go fishing, trolling for these lingcod in the middle of the winter. And I just remember sitting in that boat because he is we got there I can't remember what time we got there, and got there in the dark and all day long, and we didn't catch one fish. He showed me all these pictures, and I just thought there was a point at which I just would rather die. I was so cold that little aluminum boat.
It's a cold place, that's for sure. Yep.
How you been? How's business? Let's talk about that. Let's get caught up first.
Yeah. It's funny. The community has grown at such a remarkable rate. That the number of patients that need to be seen are increasing exponentially, but the number of physicians is not. And we can only work so many hours a day, see so many people a day. So we're busy, to say the least. A lot of people who have moved into town who like outdoor activities, mountain biking, skiing, hunting and fishing, those types of things. And I'm a sports medicine physician, so as a sports medicine doctor, those are sort of our bread and butter patients. And then the club sports that's exploded and getting bigger and bigger, and it's busy. Yeah, we see a lot of people and a lot of injury care and then a lot of performance enhancement and optimization. It's kind of like my niche, and there are a lot of people who are interested in that. So from a physician standpoint, we're really busy. I think the biggest complaint that I think everybody has in town is it just takes too long to see a doctor. It's a long wait, and we're aware of that. We realize that it's definitely a problem. Trying to do everything we can to fix it, but there's a lot of people that need to be seen. And I think that's a good and a bad problem, right? Like it's job security, but at the same time, we feel that stress.
Oh,
so, yeah.
How does it ever correct itself? We were talking in the hallway on your way in here, and you're like,
yeah,
I'm working 65 hours a week. I'm like, it's just.
Yeah, it's.
Do you worry? And when we talked about you coming on again today, I'm like, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, I don't know. But there's a lot of things I want to talk to you about. One is just, do you worry about burnout? Because you think of all the specialties that there are in medicine. You are a sports medicine doctor.
Yeah.
So in theory, you've picked the thing that you're around healthy people all the time, happy people all the time, people that get better. I mean, you're not dredging in the ERs like some of us schmucks did.
Yeah, totally, right? Totally.
But just the pressures of modern. I hear it from all my colleagues that were in medicine with me.
Yeah.
That they're just like, I don't know, man. It's different now. Talk about that.
Well, and I know I'm preaching to the choir because working in the ER definitely has different levels of stress, and I recognize that and realize that. I think if you work in a dermatology clinic, if you work in derm, the stress that you feel there is different than the stress you feel in the ER. But you're right. I did pick a profession that I enjoy, so there's passion there. I really like where I'm at. I can't really see myself being a doctor or doing anything else. So that being said, when I feel like, I talk to people about burnout, I don't look at it as burnout. I look at it as being tired, because I enjoy what I'm doing. And when I look at the definition of burnout, there's a sense of, there's this lack of purpose, lack of autonomy, lack of
that's
drive.
A great distinction, because that's not what it is, right?
Right.
You went in it for the right reason. You're passionate about it. You love it. You're just freaking tired.
Yeah, you're just tired. You're worn out. And I had a conversation with an older doc years ago who told me that burnout, and granted, I'm not sure that I totally agree with this, but he told me that burnout was a luxury. He said, he went so far as to say depression is a luxury. Like he's like, and he brought up my dad, who's a hardworking blue collar guy. He's like, when was the last time your dad didn't go to work because he was sad? And I was like, never. And he goes, when was the last time your dad didn't go to work because he was tired? And I was like, oh yeah, no, he always went. Like, when was the last time your dad didn't show up because he was, he like brought these things up, and he was like, burnout is a state of mind, and he's like, you decide the state of your mind. And of course, there's certain levels of, the tissue breaks down. We get, I get that. I recognize that, but I think burnout really comes down to losing the joy in your work. And as long as the joy is there and you're able to manage being tired, I don't like, for me, I don't feel burned out. Now, that being said, I definitely acknowledge the tired. Working, I work in clinic 5 days a week, and then I work walk-in, like urgent orthopedic urgent care at least one weekend, if not 2 weekends a month. And then I work nights, at least 2 or 3 nights a week. I'm covering some sport. And then at least 1 or 2 weekends a month, I cover a sport. And then I try to make it to my kids' sports. And then I try to do the things that are, I have other jobs outside of medicine with, social media and content creating and, sponsorship things that I do that are ancillary income. So I feel like I realistically probably work 7 days a week, but I don't mind that. I sort of probably enjoy that in some ways. But I recognize that the people that I work with, and the majority of people that I work with don't really want to work 7 days a week, 365. They like breaks. They want to have some change in the scenery. And I definitely have, we were joking as we were coming in. I'm a blue collar guy with a white coat, and I work like a blue collar guy that came from nothing and has something to prove. And I've been in practice for 6-7 years, and I still feel that way. And I think that as long as I feel like my work has purpose and that there is some benefit to it outside of just a paycheck, I feel okay with it. And then all the other things that I do keep me busy and keep me out of trouble, as simple as that sounds. Like, I have got pretty bad ADHD, and if I sit still too much, I get pretty bad anxiety, truthfully. A dangerous place for me is on a beach with nothing to do.
Yeah.
It causes me to be quite unrested and pretty agitated. So the more busy I am, the less there's time for the demons to get in my head and rattle me up. So I recognize that there are a lot of people who get burned out. I recognize that a lot of people feel tired, and there's probably some crossover there. But for me, as long as there's some purpose there, some mastery, some autonomy, is, it's been written about that those things create a feeling of success for me. Seeing patients that are improving helps me to feel like, if I wasn't here and helping this person, then, their life's affected in a negative way. The people that work with me, I don't say for me, I say with me, because they're my team, and you would know this as well as anyone. If you don't have good nurses in the ER, you're not going to do well. You're just not going to do well. So the team that I work with, I'm definitely very aware of their level of being tired, and everybody's is different, and I don't want to overdo it for them. But for me, I'm doing okay still. Definitely work hard and definitely tired from time to time, and I acknowledge that. And for me to recharge, it doesn't take much. I go to the mountains and go hunting or go fishing, or I have a little ranch. I have some cows. I do a small cattle business. So going out to work with my hands helps me, doing things with my family helps me. So I think there's a way for me to recharge. It doesn't take a week off. It just takes maybe a couple of hours, and then I feel like I'm ready to go again.
It's great. It's great. One of the things as I'm listening to you is medicine, healthcare, helping people is such a pure interaction. I mean, you think about, like, if you strip it down to that, like, someone's got a problem and they don't know how to fix it, and they need a physician to help them or heal them. And there's nothing like it. And I mean, it's just such a privilege. I mean, I think I truly mean that. And I think most of the people that I knew, associated with for years, decades of my life, they felt the same. They felt the same kind of honor and privilege it is, gratitude for just being able to wake up every morning, go to work, and take care of people. Mm-hmm. And I think that will always be the essence of healthcare. I think what happened to healthcare in my time is the bureaucracy and business and interactions just are mind-numbing in today's world. And thank heavens that you still have the good part of it, right? The still patient care, and it still motivates you, and you still walk away every day saying, man, I had wonderful interactions, and I got to take care of patients, this sacred privilege, because the rest of it's changed, right?
Yeah. And that's where it feels like, I think a lot of the people who are burned out, a lot of the docs that I know that would describe themselves being burned out, it's not that they're burned out with doing the job, which is taking care of people. The science is still exciting to them. The learning opportunities. You're a lifelong learner as a doctor. You're constantly reading. Like, that's exciting. It's challenging in a good way, but it's those other things you're talking about, like the fights and the struggles with insurance, and the fights and the struggles with in administration, or, the chart notes, and litigation, and surveys and complaints, and all the things that, it's all that other stuff that makes it more difficult. My dad used to joke, my dad's definitely, my dad is one of the coolest, blue collar guys. He's got a book full of quotes. And, he always talks about, when he got out of cattle business, because my grandpa was a cattle hand. My dad was an oil guy. So he's, moving up, breaking these chains of bondage from the cowboying days and stuff. And so when I was the first one to get a bachelor's degree in my family, and when I went to school, my dad, he was like, just remember that with cows, you always win. And I didn't, and I grew up cowboying and working and drilling, and I worked on rigs for a lot of years too. And now that I've got my own kind of life and some hobby cow business on the side, I recognize that the value in that was, even though he got out of the cattle business too, he realized that there were days where the paperwork was killing him. For him, it was working with engineers that like they're telling him that it's supposed to be built like this, and he's telling them it doesn't work like that. Like, come and put the wrench on the nut and I'll show you. Like, you can't do it because the engineers are like, well, on paper, he's like, I don't care what it says on paper. Come put it on, you know what I mean? And then for us, it's the same thing. It's like, well, we need you to see this many patients, or we need you to do it in this amount of time, or we need you to get these things done before you order that MRI. I say, hey, listen, I hear you, but that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Like, come put your boots on the ground, come get blood on your hands, and let's talk about how it really works. And with cows, and then where that saying comes from, the cows, you always win. Like, you just can't argue with that. Like, eventually you're going to get them into the next pasture. Eventually they're going to get fed. Eventually you're going to get them in the trailer. Eventually you're going to get slaughtered. Eventually you're going to put them in a package. Eventually, like, at some point with cows, it may fight you and fight you and fight you, but like at some point you're going to win.
I can't wait to. Corey Hall is my good friend here, and he's just a cowboy, and when we do some of that together, and I love that line. I love it. With cows, you're always going to win. I'm really connecting with you right now because I think of my life now, and what I enjoy more than almost anything is going out and taking care of the cows, doing those simple things. There's always something to do. Mm-hmm. It's so good for me. It's so, in fact, it's, we go up to McCall to the ranch, and there's always work to do. Mm-hmm. And it's fun work, and I enjoy it. I'm outside, and I'm with my dogs, and I'm not thinking about anything. I don't care where my phone is. I don't even check an email. And for me, if I go on vacation, like to Hawaii or somewhere like that, it's like I'm a wreck. So I'm really
There's a lot of.
I'm looking at my phone. It's just so different. So it's funny that you spend all your life the first part of your life trying to get off a farm, and then you spend the last part of your life trying to get back on one.
100%, yeah, and it does drive my old man nuts. He's like, "Boy, I thought I got you educated. You get out of this life," and shaking his head. But it's good though.
That's really cool. Talk about your craft, which is sports medicine, which is a great field. I mean. Mm-hmm. A lot of advances, a lot of treatment, and you get to be part of the performance side of it too. Mm-hmm. And that's got to be exciting because you run healthy people that are trying to improve their physiology and those sort of things. And what advances have you seen? And it's an exciting time to be. I think we started kind of with hey, I just got off work, I'm tired, I'm dragging ass coming in here, to now like, hey, there's great things going on, right? So that's the flip side of it.
Yeah.
Talk about that for us.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think one of the things that we see that is changing rapidly is the field of orthobiologics and non-operative treatment for orthopedic concerns. I would say the vast majority of complaints, we use that term, of course, in medicine, but the vast majority of orthopedic complaints are non-surgical. And, finding treatment for people that is successful, that doesn't require a surgical intervention is remarkable. Getting people back to doing the things that they want to do, or getting them to a higher level of doing the things they like to do is very enriching. And so I think orthobiologics is a field where we're seeing advances and improvements in outcomes, which is really exciting. I think a lot of understanding. I'm really happy to see that strength and conditioning is and improving body composition is being looked at more as a medical treatment now. Yeah, it's more common, and it's more accepted, I think, in the public's view. I've been working as a personal trainer, writing diets for people and exercise programs since like 2002. So I've done that for a long time, and I always incorporated that in my practice along through medical school and residency. I was the guy in the back that's like, well, hey, what about if they get stronger? Like, would their knee pain get better if they got a better quad VMO activation? Or, hey, what about if their hip, if they're OA, what about if they got their glute med stronger? Would they get better? Like, I was always that guy that was the professors where I was like, here's the meathead again, talking about lifting weights. But really now we see that, gosh, that actually is a huge component. Like, we can prevent significant orthopedic concerns as well as metabolic and health concerns. Lifespan improves and health span improves with, improving conditioning and improving body composition, like reducing body fat, improving skeletal muscle. It's the silver bullet, and people have known that a long time, but it's becoming accepted that, oh yeah, It's not just the doctor harping on me to lift weights. I actually think this is a good idea. It's becoming common knowledge. So as a sports medicine provider, being able to use exercise and nutrition as medicine is really exciting to me, because that's another passion for me. And being able to incorporate that to where, even if it's someone who's never exercised before, we're helping them so that they're learning how to exercise and eat differently, versus someone who's really good at exercise. I mean, like a big part of my practice with sports performance is helping professional, semi-professional, collegiate, Olympic athletes improve. In what ways can they improve? And it's really exciting to do that as well. Like that's like if you were going to compare that to like mechanics, that's like someone who works on the jalopies, Honda Civic, right? Versus a Ferrari. You know what I mean? Like that, of course you need to work on the Honda Civics, because that's what keeps America running, is all those cars that have great gas mileage and stuff. But once in a while you get to work on a race car, and that's really fun and exciting.
That's cool.
That's a big part of what I do too. And I really enjoy that. I like working on Honda Civics. It's not like I don't. I mean, I see my fair share of knee osteoarthritis in the 7-year-old pickleball player for sure. But also being able to work with those high-level pro athletes that really want to get better is super exciting.
I'm going to take you down both those paths. So
right.
Let's do Honda Civics first.
Yeah,
you're
Honda
you're
Civics.
40, 50-year-old weekend warrior, want to be healthy, want longevity in your life, want to be healthy and live long and enjoy your things. What are the things you're telling your patients right now?
Deconditioning kills, and fragility is fatal. So if you're 40 or 50 and you want to live a healthy and strong life, do not allow yourself to become deconditioned. Aerobic and anaerobic exercise. If you're not doing it, we're going to start now. It doesn't matter where you're at. We're going to start today, kind of a thing. And then fragility is literally fatal. I mean, ground level fall with a hip fracture leads to all-cause mortality, right? So if we can improve your skeletal muscle and your bone density, that's what we need to work on right now. And if you're 40 and you're 50 and you have a sport you like, you like golf, pickleball, whatever, tennis, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, let's get you to the point where you can do those things more frequently with less pain, right? So less of the I to C type pain. And a big part of it is just making really simple, small changes with people, and then just keeping them accountable.
Isn't so much of a consistency?
Totally. Like
go through so we're
Dude,
Honda
100%,
Civic,
yeah.
we're sticking on Honda Civic. Honda Civic, probably 15, 20, 30 pounds overweight, probably not eating well, eating the usual American diet, a little mental fog, tired, not sleeping well, too much time on the phone, too much work, busy. And you take that person and you start with sleep, and then you say, hey, start exercising. What is that exercise? What does their exercise program look like to really make a change in their life?
It just has to be very consistent, just like you said. Like, people will talk about inspiration and motivation. They're useless. Like, dedication and commitment are 10 out of 10 more useful. If you're committed to something and you continue to do it, you don't need to be inspired to do it. You don't need to be motivated to do it. You just do it. I mean, did you brush your teeth today? Yeah. Why? Well, it's just part of my routine. I want my teeth to last me a lifetime, right? Like, well, you look at it like that, then, I mean, people used to ask me in the gym, like, man, how do you stay motivated to work out through residency? I was like, I'm usually full of answers. Not all of them right. I had no answer. I was like, I don't know. Nothing really motivates me. What inspires me is seeing some 50-year-old guy that's overweight that's coming into the gym 2 or 3 times a week because he wants to be healthy and be around for his grandkids. Like that, you know how hard that is? You know how difficult that is for that guy to show up here in the morning, going to work a 12-hour shift driving a FedEx truck, and he's going to come in here in the morning at 4:30 and work out because he wants to be able to be around for his grandkids. You know how hard that is? This guy never worked out before, right? I mean, with a Honda Civic, if you put oil in the machine, you fill it up with gas, you put tires on it, and if you drive it like a reasonable human, it's going to last you a long time, right? Same thing if we're in our 40s. Your 30s.
Dude, I feel like I'm back in rural Wyoming right now getting a lecture from your dad. I love it. He's got to listen to this and go, man, my son is killing it.
Put oil in there.
True, right?
Put oil in it, put fuel in it, like put tires on it. Make sure you fill up your blinker fluid. You see that wink? Where's the camera at? Fill up your blinker fluid, make sure the Duma Flachis are flashing. I mean, if you just take care of it and maintain it, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, right? And so with someone who's like in that time frame, by the way, your 30s and 40s are probably the most influential, and most 30 and 40-year-olds don't realize this. This is a whole nother lecture that I give people, but like in your 30s and 40s, you don't realize how pivotal and quintessential that decade of life is to set you up for the next 30. You really have, like, people have no idea how important it is because they usually gain 10 or 15 pounds in their 20s.
It's habits, right?
Totally, yeah.
Like to your point, like, I want to brush my teeth every day. If you stop brushing your teeth in your 20s, your 30s and 40s,
teeth would fall apart.
Teeth fall apart, right? But it's just it is habit forming.
Yep. And if you look at like the really simple things, like so that 40-year-old person, it's like, how do we start that, right? Like I ask them to do very, very simple things, like have a conversation with them about what their normal life is like. What are the normal routines? What are those things like? And then how can we alter that in a way that isn't catastrophic? It usually does not need to be a catastrophic change. It can be very simple, like, stop drinking your calories, right? Drink water or drink a calorie-free, these are the foods you really like. Let's just eat a little bit less of those things. Like you can still have spaghetti meatballs, just eat a little bit less. You drive by 3 gyms on your way to work. Would it kill you to get up an hour earlier, or maybe leave work a little bit earlier, or maybe sneak in there? You know what I mean? Like there's options, right? And so I'll tell people too, like even if it's they've got a desk job or something, it's like, well, hey, can you stand up and walk for 90 seconds? Usually people, I'm busy. Like my job is like, but I can spare 90 seconds to walk up and down the hall. And if you do that 10 times, like all of a sudden you're adding steps, adding minutes, and you're exercising throughout the day.
Talk a little bit about, so 7 days in a week, and for that Honda Civic 40-ish-year-old person, it's consistency over time. Mm-hmm. But the amount of time a day, you can be pretty effective if you stretch. Like let's talk about stretching. Mm-hmm. Stretch and get some cardio and some weight training in. It's not a lot of time every day. It's the consistency over time, correct?
I work out for 45 minutes, maybe an hour. I like to work out, mind you. It's something I enjoy. So I work out at least 6 or sometimes 7 times a week, but you don't need to do that, right? Like if you work out for 30 minutes most days of the week and you modify your caloric intake, most people see dramatic changes. Yeah. If you go from like Honda Civic.
And what I love about the human body is like if you did that consistently for a month, you would feel different.
Totally. Everything changes. Your taste buds change. Like your cravings for sugar decrease because your taste buds turn over after 60 days or whatever it is, like 45 to 60 days. Your taste buds are changing, so now you're not craving it as much, doesn't taste as good. Like if humans can change a pattern and maintain that pattern for 3 months, they start to notice a big change. Maybe not the rest of the world, but if they're able to do that for 6 months, then people that they know really well are going to notice there's been a difference. If they do it for a year, they're a completely different person. Cellular level, everything changes. Mitochondria, red blood cells, white blood cells, all of it changes, right, within a year. And so you can be a completely different person in a year. The hard part for people, it's not complicated. It's just difficult to do. The science is not complicated. It's very simple, right? The equation is very simple. The biochemistry is very simple, even though like metabolism would take up this entire wall. Calories in, calories out, and then macronutrients, micronutrients, and then output. And lean muscle mass is the metabolic organ that we're really focusing on. So increasing lean muscle mass, appropriate intake, consistent time frame. It really isn't complicated, but it is really hard to do for most people. And I think that having some very simple, achievable goals, like you can't set the bar so high that you walk in on day one and you're like, well, I am never going to climb to the top of that mountain. Not going to even try. Yeah. Right? Like that, it just shuts people down. So if you're like, well, how about today at our 15-minute break, maybe we don't have a cigarette. Maybe instead we just have a conversation, don't smoke. And tomorrow, instead of having 3 Pepsis at lunch, maybe we just have 1. And then a year from now, you're drinking water and you're not smoking and you're exercising and live a longer half of your life.
Before we leave this, talk about the mental health advantages that come in a world where you look at how our world's changed, right? Most people live attached to a phone, checking social media, comparing their real lives with someone else's, make-believe version of their life. We're more sedentary than ever. Testosterone levels are lower than ever historically. Cortisol levels are higher than ever. Sleep's worse than it's ever been. You start going down all of the trends that we have in America, and then you look at just the obesity rates in America and comorbidities that are happening in America. And then, so there's all that. And then just go to like, well, why would we be having more anxiety, depression than ever before? And you're like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's like,
it doesn't take a doctor or a scientist to look at that and say, I don't know, that doesn't seem like that equation doesn't check, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think exercise is one of the most overlooked antidepressants for sure. And I think food is probably one of the most abused antidepressants. I mean, because people they use food as a way to deal with their stress and anxieties, and it's not an appropriate method, but it is quite common. Exercise changes your brains. You have a pharmacy floating around in your body, and people may not realize this, but as you exercise, you release hormones and endorphins that change your brain chemistry the same way that a Tylenol would, or an aspirin would, or an antibiotic. I mean, it changes your chemistry, your neurochemistry, and those chemical changes that occur have a dramatic effect upon the way you feel. And as you mentioned, cortisol levels, stress hormones, neurotransmitters, which are responsible for a lot of the functions of your body and homeostasis and how it all works. But exercise pretty much plays a role in every human system. I mean, everything from your skin. I mean, even if you start exercising and you have difficulties with inflammation in your skin. I mean, I've got a good friend who's a dermatologist. I've talked about this with him a lot, like how exercise improves your skin. And that doesn't seem like something that would come up in chapter 1 of dermatology, but it probably should, because it's something all of us have access to. Not all of us have access to the medications that might make your skin clean and healthy, right? But we can all exercise. And it does. It has a direct effect upon your cells in your skin and can clear up inflammatory responses that occur in your skin. And I've seen that happen with patients too. Like it's remarkable. So if you're looking at one tool, one lever that you can pull to improve mental health, that pretty much we have data that supports its use for everybody, it's exercise. I mean, it works on your neurochemistry, it works on your mood, it works in a plethora of other ways that are, the science is really, it's incredible and it's exciting, but it's also really simple. Just get your heart rate up and keep it up and do some resistance training, release some endorphins, release some chemicals, change your hormone levels, and feel better. I mean, it really does work.
That's powerful stuff, Caleb. That's great. Let's talk about the Ferrari.
Yeah.
So now you have the Ferrari, right?
Mm-hmm.
These people, athletes, you help all types, and they're fine tuned. It's got to be fun for them to come into you and say, okay, my performance is here. I want to take it to here. It's kind of the other end of the spectrum for you. So
it's really exciting. And I should say, for the people out there who think they're a Civic, the Ferraris have just as many, if not more, problems than the Civics. Social media, people comparing themselves and stuff. Comparison will rob you of happiness. And, if you're a Civic, don't compare yourself to a Ferrari, and remind yourself that Civics do just fine. It's interesting. Like, you'll find little things, sometimes big things, that can be improved upon with the Ferraris, the pro and the higher level athletes. And it's often the same component. We're humans. We have one heart, 2 lungs, 10 fingers, 10 toes, right? Like, you've all got, for the most part, we're all built the same, but we're all built different. And I mean that in the most, as simple as that sounded, it is incredibly profound that you just have one heart beating in you, just like everybody else. So if it's possible, it's possible. It doesn't matter where you start from. But the Ferraris, usually it's you have to dig a little bit deeper to find the key to making this car faster. How can we make this person more effective? How can we help them with improving their rest and recovering their sleep? How do we help them with their mental health? How do we help them improve muscle? They're already quite big and quite strong, or quite lean and quite fast. Like, how do we improve upon that? And it's interesting because the term asymptote, right? Like this continual improvement, but not a lot of change on the x-axis. They get to this point where, like, super trained athletes will feel like they're not really improving anymore. They've just hit this plateau, but they really are. It's just at such a small increment that it's hard for them to notice it. So a lot of times what we're doing is showing them, like, hey, you are improving, and here's how you're improving. And, like, sometimes they're data driven, sometimes it's not. It's like having them step back and look and say, oh, you're right. I do feel like I'm doing okay in these aspects. And then, it's interesting too. It's fun to find ways for them to get to build strength. The human body is a phenomenal machine. Oh my gosh, it's so exciting to watch it work at its highest level. And honestly, I'm just enamored by performance for someone who's, a fifth grade kid that just learns how to swing a bat. It's like, man, did you see how that kid swung the bat and hit the ball? Like, that takes so many motor neurons firing all in the same way for him to do that. It's just as exciting as watching someone hit their, 50th home run in a season or whatever. Like, it's just powerful to see. But I love working with those high-level athletes because it causes me to work a little bit harder too. Like, I have to dig a little bit deeper. I have to find new, unique ways to improve upon where they're at, and that's fun and exciting.
That's cool. Talk a little bit about the availability through your practice here for people to. I mean, I know you're hard to get into, but what are the options within your practice for those that need help or
we try to be as accessible as possible. I mean, we're trying to be open to seeing new patients. Like, we're definitely seeing new patients. Everybody in my clinic is seeing new patients, and it's the hard part is, like, if you call in, and I work for a big hospital system, and you're on hold for a long time, I would just say, don't give up. Stay on the phone.
Don't give up.
Don't ever give up. Like, don't give up. Like, stay on there till you get what you need. Like, don't take no for an answer, kind of a thing. It's funny, people reach out in a lot of ways now that they didn't used to, social media being one of them. And I have a hard time there because I can't legally, like, really communicate with people through social media. Is not a safe way for that, for lots of reasons. But people reach out through social media all the time to get appointments and things like that. But, people get online and they can request a consultation. And we try to do our best to get people in. We're probably only really booked out maybe 3 or 4 weeks from a new patient evaluation. But the hard part is, like, the type of evaluation and the time frame. People often will call in and be like, well, I want to be seen on a Tuesday at 3:00. And it's like, well, yeah, how about a Wednesday morning at 8 a.m.? No, I can't do mornings. And it's like, and that's sometimes what pushes people out a little further, is like their availability.
I just looked down the time. I got 3 more things I've got to get through with you.
Let's
so
do it.
People that are, I'm going to do a formal introduction on you, but you're Dr. Thor during the Titan Games, right?
Yeah,
that's what it was a big deal, right?
Yeah, people have been calling me Thor for a long time before the Titan Games. They just ate it up. Like, Dwayne Johnson thought that was hilarious, and he's obviously friends with Chris Hemsworth, and, like, would just totally, like, running down.
So you're on Titan. So for those listening,
mm-hmm.
You were on the Titan Games, and
Yeah.
that's where. I mean, it was from, your story. It was really cool. I mean, it was for people that knew you. It was really awesome. But because of that, you got a pretty big social media following, which has continued. Talk about how that fits into your life and content and all that.
It's funny. It did nothing for my social media, actually. Like, it didn't. Like, my social media actually changed in the last, 6 months. I gained 85,000 followers in 6 months because I started working at it. The same way you would start working at trying to get into college or going to a new job or something like that. Yeah.
Dude, look at that. Oh, man.
A couple of magazines. It's funny. All those things that I do on social media too are, it's just learning the process and understanding. I looked at it like I was trying to learn calculus. Social media, I thought that going on the Titan Games, being on TV, I was expecting this mass expansion in social media. I might have gained 500 followers after that.
So you know Dustin Portella?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's done it.
Yeah, phenomenal.
And the amount of money he has coming in off what he does,
Yeah.
it's like he's good at it, but it's a second job, right?
Yeah, it is. And that's how I've treated this. Is it became, it's still a way for me to connect with family and friends because I grew up without it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in that generation that Facebook was a college thing that my senior year, like, oh, you got to get this Facebook thing, right? In med school, they told us to get rid of all social media, right? So I canceled, deleted everything. And then in residency, they were like, no, it's okay if you have social media. So I started a social media account, got on the Titan Games shortly after, thought it was going to blow up. It didn't. I was like, man, I thought they were going to help us. Like, that was the trade here, but it didn't. It really got big when I started learning the process and using social media like a tool, just like I was learning calculus. And once I learned how to improve it, now I understand how to continue to make it grow. But it is a lucrative business tool, and it is also something that my perception of social media is that it can be so terrible and everyone has it, that I want to create, at least in some ways, some positivity out there.
That's what I love about it. I mean, you look at what Dustin's done. It's
totally.
It's positive. It's using a medium same way it can be used in a negative way and in a very positive way to help improve people's
And Dustin
lives.
has been a great mentor for me. We've been buddies for a long time. We met in Costco one day, like randomly 10 years ago or something. And like, we've been friends ever since. But that guy has been he's been a great mentor for me on how to like, more than anything, I ask him how to deal with the negative ramifications. Cause the bigger your social media following is, the more there are people who say mean things. And you know, and I've had people get jobs. Like I had a guy in Canada get a job using my name and credentials from a picture off of social media. He made fake IDs and stuff.
Gosh.
And I got called by this company like, hey, are you coming into work today? I was like, what are you talking about? And so like there are weird things like that happen through social media that I had no idea was even going to be a thing. And I used Dr. Pertella as a reference often to be like, hey man, what do you do in this situation? You know? And he was like, oh yeah. Anyway, so that's been cool. But social media is a great way for me to connect with people and to create. I think I do two things. I try to make people laugh, create positivity, and then I slip education in there. If you just did education, it like I did that for a long time, and I would get, you know, nobody sees it.
Yeah.
But you
gotta do it all.
You got to do it all. Yeah.
So it's Dr. Kaleb Redden.
Mm-hmm. Just
Redden.
Kaleb Redden. Yeah.
I love it. Hey, one last thing.
Yeah.
Boone Bartlome.
Yeah.
I love that kid.
Me too.
Gosh.
Yeah.
So Boone Bartlome, great kid here locally, paralyzed playing football. And honestly, he's probably one of the most inspirational human beings I've ever interacted with. And I've known him for years. But how's it been being his doc? Because you're his doc,
Phenomenal.
right?
Yeah. Like, I couldn't argue with anything you just said. The only thing that I have over Boone is that I'm better looking than he is. And hopefully he hears this, Boone. I got a better mustache than he does. That guy is...
You don't have a better truck.
No, you're right. He's got a better truck. That Dodge is remarkable. I started working with Boone. It was really interesting. He was training at the gym just shortly after his incident. And I was like, hey, man. Like he was trying to do a tricep press down and he couldn't quite get to the rope to change it. And I was like, you know, I knew enough about adaptive athletes to know that he doesn't want someone to help him. He wants to do this on his own. It's important for him to learn how to do this. But at the same time, I was like, hey, the real goal here is for you to make those triceps bigger and tougher, isn't it? So yeah, I'm like, so what if I create an opportunity for that to occur by moving this down for you? And he goes, that's a fair deal. So I'll take that deal. It's like, all right. And that's how it started. And then from there, I was like, hey, you need to get stronger and you can't do it here. And so I had him come work out with me at the Mecca gym for a few years. Like we worked together, like I would train with him 2 or 3 times a week. And then from there it became like he needed help from a physician standpoint with other things. And so I would see him as a patient. But
I didn't know it started that way.
Yeah, it started.
That's super cool. It actually doesn't surprise me a bit, but
that guy, he's so freaking tough. And like there would be days where I was so humbled. I mean, I'm not a pro athlete, right? But I'm a pretty strong guy. And I feel like I'm a pretty good athlete for my size and my strength. I don't want to sound boastful, but I'm pretty stout. And there would be days where I'd be training with Boone and I'd be like, holy crap. Like this kid just, not only did he stand up out of this wheelchair to do what we're doing, and the weight maybe isn't the same, but he's making me work. And like, I'm supposed to be training him. And like, there'd be days where I'd just be like, you good? Hoping he'd say yes so that we could quit. Because that kid does not understand quit. And that's one of the, like, that's an inspiration to me, is watching someone overcome adversity, make adaptations and modifications in their life to be successful and do it with a positive attitude. And he won't lie to you and tell you he never gets sad or gets down in the dumps. He does, just like all the rest of us.
That's what makes him so great.
Yeah.
He's so vulnerable, and he helps so many people because he is. Mm-hmm. He's like, hey, look at what I'm doing, and look what I've overcome. But hey, I have bad days, and it's hard, and it's rough. And
there's a mountain to climb.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with calling it out.
Boone, if you're listening to this, man, we love you.
Sure do, Boone. And by the way, it's about time for us to get back in the gym, push some iron, brother. Yeah, I love that
Hey,
kid.
thank you for coming on. This was super fun. I want to do it again.
Let's do it.
This is really good.
Yeah,
and
thanks for the
appreciate
opportunity.
you and all you do for everyone. It's a great thing. And
For
we
sure.
appreciate having you on, Kaleb.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Everybody.